just help, it's a necessity. In Top Dragster, title contenders like Anthony Bartosi run 2 classes on every racing weekend. Twice the races, twice the experience. There's no refuge in Top Sportsman, where every time you line up, you may face a former world champion. What to do? Cut a perfect light and hang on. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, welcomes you to New York International Raceway Park in Leicester, New York, site of the Napa Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Empire Nationals. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. A few seasons ago, New York International Raceway Park became an International Hot Rod Association track, and there's a reason for that. You see, the IHRA wanted to expand its scope beyond the southeastern United States, and Upper New York State is a great place to find the kind of sportsman racers who eventually feed the professional classes. With me to call the action, our sportsman coverage in New York this weekend, ESPN drag racing analyst Ted Jones. Ted, the sportsman paddocks just get bigger and bigger every year.
Yes, they do. This race is growing, and while they don't have the turnout that, say, a Bristol or a Darlington does, because it's a relatively young event, they have good, fierce competition up here, especially in the top dragster ranks. The fans really enjoy it because they had never seen the rod categories or super stock or modified, so they'll be looking forward to that action here today, Bob.
This is a full championship event, so all of the top regular performers in the sportsman ranks are here. Let's find out how they did now by getting down to the big end and our pit reporter, Brett Kepner.
Well, gentlemen, you may think I'm standing right in the heart of the pit area here at the Napa Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Empire Nationals, but I'm not. I'm down where I normally am, at the very last turnoff on the drag strip. But take a look. 580 race cars have packed New York International Raceway Park for the largest Empire Nationals fields ever in the sportsman ranks. It has been incredible through qualifying. Top Dragster and Top Sportsman alone had over 120 cars trying to qualify for 232-car fields. Now, there's one thing about New York International Raceway Park every year that presents a real challenge to the sportsman drivers, and that's the breezes that come up from nearby Lake Ontario. Now, sometimes it's a tailwind, sometimes it's a headwind. Here this weekend, it's been both. So how the sportsman drivers in the indexed and standard classes are going to be able to come up with their performance handicaps, I have no idea. It's going to be a dart throw like we've never seen. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Brett. As the heat haze rises off the racetrack, the temperature 80 degrees, but we have a weather front coming, and that's going to make the tuning job that much more difficult. This ESPN presentation is brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Tires, when you're ready to get serious. We'll be back to begin our eliminations with the slingshots of Top Dragster. Stay right there. Welcome back to the Napa Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Empire Nationals in Leicester, New York, just south of Rochester, where the breeze is blowing in off the Great Lakes. Before we get to eliminations, here's Brett Kepner with this week's edition of Drag Review.
The big story of this edition of Drag Review has been the main story of the '93 season, Top Dragster Eliminator. But if you remember, at the recent Spring Nationals, the International Hot Rod Association had allotted the use of nitrous oxide injection to big block dragsters, mainly because the supercharged small block versions were dominating the top of the qualifying list. While here at the Napa Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Empire Nationals, the shot was fired that probably will be heard throughout this particular sport. In Top Dragster Eliminator, Mike Sage came out in qualifying with a nitrous oxide-injected, carbureted, gas-burning 615 cubic inch Pontiac engine and ran 6.65 seconds at over 204 miles per hour. So much for blown small block dominance. But the most incredible aspect of Top Dragster here at this particular Empire Nationals edition is the fact that every single diversion or type of combination available in this Top Dragster class is represented. We had nitrous injected big blocks, normally aspirated big blocks, supercharged big block altereds, nitrous oxide injected altereds, incredible supercharged small block altered roasters that even ran in the 6-second zone, nitrous small block dragsters, and normally aspirated small block dragsters. And every single kind of those top dragster machines qualified for this 32-car field, and they did it in record time. It tied the all-time record 32-car bump spot at 7.69 seconds. Now, the supercharged small block machines that have dominated the sport didn't kind of drift away here at the Empire Nationals. They still filled the number 2 through number 8 spots. But keep in mind that the supercharged big block holders were also represented in the top 8. But the big subject is the fact that Mike Sage finally got a nitrous oxide injection engine not just to be competitive, but to put a 1/10 of a second lead on the supercharged entries. That's this edition of Drag Review.
All right, thank you, Brett. Enough variety here to please any motorsports enthusiast palate. We'll get into quarterfinal action now in Top Dragster. Richard Haskins from Manchester, New York, going up against Larry Kuhn from Cicero, New York.
Well, this will be the digger against the alder. Talk about two different ways to approach it here. Both of them with big block engines in them. Now, watch very closely, and you'll see the little alder lead first. Here comes the digger trying to track him down.
Two different combinations. The dragster ought to be faster. Let's see if he can run him down.
No, sir, he cannot do it. Haskins picks up the victory with an 826 on that 820 dial-in.
Now our next pair. This is Joe Nelson from Morganton, North Carolina in a 1985 dragster chassis against the 91 machine of Santos Cecilia from Salem, Ohio.
Now, Cecilia running the supercharged small block engine that was so popular. Nelson running a 509 cubic inch big block engine, normally aspirated.
Heard Cecilia revving that engine, trying to keep the revs up in the blower, and problems for Nelson. Cecilia will advance.
Both of them with problems. Cecilia a 747 on a 684 dial-in. So both of them had a little bit of problem.
The dial-in is your predicted performance of the car. Get as close to it as you can without going under. There's Todd Dixon from Pleasant Garden, North Carolina. His opponent, Mike Ledford from Stanton, Michigan, who knocked off the world champion in the previous round. Of course, it was a family affair. The champion is his brother, Jeff.
Both cars, big block dragsters, normally aspirated, staging very, very carefully, dialed in on 765 and 761, so it'll appear as though they leave together.
Good launches for both cars. Looks like Dixon has the advantage at half track.
Ledford picks him off with a 769 on a 765 dial. Dixon had a red light start back on the starting line.
And now our final pair, David Price from Norwalk, Ohio against Danny Bastianelli from Georgetown, Delaware.
Well, Bastianelli sticks with that 351 Cleveland-headed small block Ford engine against Price's big block Chevrolet. Looks like Bastianelli's out first with a brilliant 5:15 reaction time. Here comes Price. Can he get him? No, sir. Bastianelli, a 761 on a 752 dial-in.
Now that may sound close, but everybody's running well off their dial-ins, and that tells you something about the problems they're having tuning. Here's the semifinal matchup. Richard Haskins, Santos Cecilia, Danny Bastianelli against Mike Ledford. We'll be back with the Top Sportsman cars. Welcome back to New York International Raceway Park. A big crowd on hand, and of course, Manufacturers Row is always busy. Let's go now to the door slammers of Top Sportsman. Our first matchup will be Larry Ray from Rayford, North Carolina, against Will Shaheda from Youngstown, Ohio.
Well, I haven't seen Larry Ray on the IHRA trail in quite some time, so I'm glad to see him back going at it. A tough racer. I don't know too much about Shaheda from Youngstown.
Both cars matching 496 cubic inch Chevy engines. Ray off to a great launch, and Shaheda just will not catch him.
Larry Ray an 852 on an 849 dial, but a great 5:14 reaction time to pick up an easy victory.
Now here is Frank Teague, the defending world champion in Top Sportsman, but only 4th in points coming into this weekend's event. He's been having his problems. His opponent is no slouch, number 6 in points, and a former world champ, Gary Bingham.
Teague is off first with that 842 dial-in, cut a 541 reaction time. That's not good. Here comes Bingham. Yes, sir. Bumped him off. 812 on an 809 dial-in. Nice job, Gary.
Our third matchup, Joe Ballog from Wyandotte, Michigan against Joe Cunningham from Harrisonville, Virginia.
Both running big block Chevrolet engines in Top Sportsman. Remember, these are the understudies for the Pro Modified.
The advantage goes to Ballog on the handicap start. Let's see if Cunningham can catch him.
Ballog pulls it out, an 823 on an 818 dial-in at 167 mile an hour. He'll advance into the semis.
And our top qualifier, Lewis Burris, had no opponent, so he advances automatically. He will face Larry Ray. Gary Bingham will go up against Joe Ballog. The clouds are building over New York International Raceway Park. We'll take time out right now for a track fact with Brett Kepner.
Ask any driver in the slower stock and super stock machines what the most important piece of equipment they own is, and they'll tell you their automobile mirrors. Believe it or not, in the slower stock and super stock classes, once the drivers get into their last forward gear, they're not looking straight down the drag strip. In fact, they hardly ever look straight down the drag strip. They're driving the cars out of either the side mirrors or the top center mirror inside the car. As a matter of fact, this is a classic example. Larry Zugauer's Plymouth Turismo gets some of the biggest handicaps in stock eliminator. Once he's at about half track, he drives the whole rest of the way looking out of the mirrors, looking to see which side the car is bearing down on him at the other end, and at the finish line, he'll be looking directly sideways, trying to gauge his win margin. But one thing's for sure, without these mirrors, the slow people wouldn't have a chance.
All right, thank you, Brett. As you notice, the stock cars have stock interiors. In fact, you can even listen to the radio on your way down the strip. We'll be back with Modified. Welcome back to Leicester, New York, where the cars are in the staging lanes for our featured sportsman category this weekend, Modified.
Probably the most exciting class in IHRA drag racing. The Modified is made up of dragsters, altereds, modified productions, econo-modified, a variety of high-revving, gear-jamming, exciting drag racing action.
Now, a solo pass may not be so exciting, but that's what this man, Anthony Bartozzi of Richmond, Virginia, had in the semifinals of Modified. Bartozzi is running 2 classes this weekend, including top dragster. Another man running 2 classes, Clay Hare from Spartanburg, South Carolina, Modified and top sportsman, but he has lots of skills. Here's Brett.
You've seen him shift a 4-speed transmission in a 170-mile-per-hour modified eliminator door slammer. You've seen him win IHRA National Championship events in both Modified Eliminator and this year's Winter Nationals Top Sportsman Eliminator. But you've never seen him like this. Clay Hare, one of the premier natural driving talents at IHRA's Modified Eliminator and, as I said, most recently top sportsman this season, has probably one of the most varied backgrounds of any championship drag racer on the IHRA Tour. And let's face it, not many people would be willing to let it out in the open, no pun intended.
Well, a lot of people knew that I used to dance for a living, so it really wasn't a big secret. A little more people are finding out about it.
Especially right now, Clay.
Yeah, especially on TV. So let's just go ahead and get it over with.
Well, how many years did you dance?
I danced for 5 years with the Peter O'Donnell show in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And this wasn't just a couple of times a week or whatever. This was a full-time traveling tour.
Yeah, we did 24 shows a month. I danced for 5 years, so basically, I think I danced for over 2 million women. I've been on stage over 700 times.
Do you compare what you had to do then with what you're doing now?
Oh, yeah. No.
I mean, in all seriousness, you financed your racing operation with a lot of the money that you gained from that operation.
Yeah, I had a part-time job in a junkyard, and that wasn't my goal. My goal was to go racing, and in order to do it without any kind of a sponsorship, I sort of sponsored myself. A lot of hard-earned dollars. The women, you know, they were good to me. They gave me a lot of money. A lot of them knew that I raced. You know, it wasn't any secret of what I did at the time. It was funny. You could actually outrun one of the guys at the track, and they go home and say, "Oh, I got beat by a stripper."
Well, no doubt you'd have to go and qualify it to your lady saying it was a male stripper, honey. Here is Clay Hare in the other half of our Modified semifinals. He'll be going up against John Marquardt from New Britain, Connecticut.
Marquardt running a C Econo dragster, Clay Hare in his B altered. Here they come.
They are side by side at half track.
And on top end, it's going to be John Marquardt. Bumps off Clay Hare with an 828 on an 822 dial-in.
Boy, being featured on our Sportsman programs is getting to be like the Sports Illustrated cover jinx. Nobody ever advances after we make a hero out of you. We move on now to the semifinals of Top Dragster. You had a look at the altered of Richard Haskins. This is Santo Cecilia in his dragster chassis.
Haskins running a big block 455 cubic inch Pontiac. Here he goes, and here comes Cecilia. He'll try and track him down. 821 against a 680 dial-in. Can he get him? No. It'll be Haskins. An 830 on that 821 dial-in to pick up an easy victory.
And Cecilia way off on the light, 726. He missed it by at full 0.2 of a second. Now our second pairing, Mike Ledford against Danny Bastianelli. Bastianelli in the dark dragster versus the white machine of Ledford.
Now remember, Bastianelli running the little 351 Ford. Very unusual. Normally in Top Dragster, they like Chevrolet or Pontiac power plant. But Bastianelli has been very, very successful with the small block Ford.
Both cars are staged. And we have a red light. Ledford red lights. Bastianelli will win it.
Bastianelli was dialed in on a 751. He runs a 753 to show his driving ability.
And Mike Ledford missed the light by 4/1000ths of a second. And so Danny Bastianelli will advance to meet Richard Haskins in the finals. Now let's check out the semifinals in Top Sportsman. There's Gary Bingham from Kings Mountain, North Carolina in his 89 Chevy Cavalier. His opponent, Joe Balog from Wyandotte, Michigan in a 90 Chevy Beretta.
Well, both these gentlemen are running big block Chevrolets. Balog qualified number 16. Bingham qualified number 14. Balog dialed in an 820. Bingham an almost identical 810. You hardly can see it in the Christmas tree. Only a 1/10 of a second spot here.
You saw that steam-looking nitrous oxide being vented from the top of the engine hood. Good launches, side by side at half track.
Bingham out on him slightly with the reaction time, but Balog pulls it out. An 825 on the 820 dial to pick up the victory at 167 miles per hour.
And that was an upset. Now here comes Larry Ray from Rayford, North Carolina in his 86 Camaro against the 91 Chevy Beretta of Lewis Burris from Alexandria, Virginia, the #1 qualifier.
Burris dialed 729. Ray dialed a slower 849. That's the minimum dial-in allowed by rules in Top Sport.
Burris all over the racetrack. Larry Ray is out and gone.
Larry Ray turns an 856 at 157 mile an hour on that 49 dial.
And so our finalists in Top Sportsman will be Larry Ray and Joe Balog, the number 27 and 16 qualifiers. That's the way it goes sometimes in Top Sportsman. Dark clouds on the horizon. Let's take time out for Big Daddy's Inside Scoop.
As most of you have probably noticed, a good portion of the top fuel drivers are getting on in the years, 50 years old and plus. And the associations and even myself, we began to worry, where were these drivers going to come from in the future if we were going to keep having some new drivers come on? Well, the associations have come up with the answer. It's Junior Dragster, a true amateur sportsman class. No money, just trophies, and by real young drivers, some under 10 years of age. And it has really spurred some interest. Over 100 of these cars are now in existence around the country. And these two have really caught my eye because they have the single wing stand just like Swamp Rat 32, and that's what we want. We want them copying the pros because that's what they're going to be someday.
Indeed, I wouldn't mind putting my little boy in one of those machines. We'll be back for the final. It's happy hour at the Napa Auto Parts Snap-on Tools Empire Nationals. A stiff breeze blowing, but the rain is holding off. It's finals time. First up, stock. Joe Guarino Jr. from Garfield, New Jersey against Larry Zugher from Hilton, New York.
Well, the stockers have to be basically the way they were built by the factory. The stock engine, all the stock parts, they're allowed to do very little modifying to these cars.
These are the machines that Brett talked about in our track fact. As you can see, Guarino Jr. with that 73 Dodge Start gets a big jump over the 85 Plymouth Horizon of Zuger.
Down on top end, it's going to be tied 1198 to a 1560 dial. Carino pulls it out with an 1198 on an 1198. These guys can drive, Bob.
He hit it on the button. Now super stock Steve Schweitzer from Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania against Wally Clark from Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada.
These are two of the local stars up here. They don't run the IHRA circuit. Look at the wheel stand coming off the line for Clark. Here they come down on top end. Both of them 350 Chevrolets. It's going to be Switzer pulls out the victory. A 1046 on a 1045 dial-in.
Great wheel standing drag race. Now on to Hot Rod. Bill Rudy from Lima, Ohio against David Israel from Caledonia, New York.
Rudy, who has run the IHRA trail for a long time with that big 427 Chevrolet, against the local star. Both of these guys will be dialed in on a 1090. They run a Pro Tree. The IHRA sets up the 1090 national standard.
Can you imagine a 427 Chevy in a 74 Gremlin chassis? That's what you've got in the far lane, and here they come.
That's the beauty of Hot Rod. It's going to be Bill Rudy with a great 502 reaction. He runs a 1088 to break out. However, Israel breaks out more with a 1087.
We move on to Super Rod. Danny Cooper from Falls Church, Virginia against Steve Grossi from Jordan Station, Ontario.
Cooper, former IHRA world champion out of Falls Church. Here comes Grossi trying to track him down with the Mopar. Does he have enough? No, sir. Cooper picks up the victory. Another double breakout, a 987 to a 986.
Now here's a drag race matchup in Quick Rod. Mike Skwerinski from Hamburg, New York against Bill Koski from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Both of them beat former world champions to get to this final.
Bill Koski, a longtime IHRA competitor, has done very well. These guys are dialed in on an 890 dial.
And we have a foul. Koski trips the red light. Skwerinski will take it.
We'll see how well he would have done. Remember, 890 is the number. He turns an 892 at 143.
And now modified, our featured class this week, Anthony Bartozzi from Richmond, Virginia against John Marquardt, who beat Clay Hare to reach this final. Marquardt out of New Britain, Connecticut.
Marquardt with a C Econo dragster, Bartozzi with a G Econo dragster. That means it has to be a super stock type, basically stock motor down in the dragster chassis. It's 442 cubic inches of big block Chevy. Marquardt with 296 cubic inches of small block Chevy.
Oh, and Marquardt very slow off the line, slow coming up to speed. He gives Bartozzi a car length and can't take it back.
Bartozzi down an 846, runs an 847. What a driver.
Now top dragster, Danny Bastianelli with that 351 Ford-powered 83 Slingshot against Richard Haskins from Manchester, New York, a 23 Ford T-body with a 455 Pontiac, and he red lights.
Another red light start. Bastianelli will cruise to the victory. He's on a 753. He punches out a 754.
Now we're getting close to those dial-ins. These guys have got the tree figured out. Top Sportsman final, Larry Ray from Rayford, North Carolina in his 86 Chevy Camaro against Joe Balog from Wyandotte, Michigan in a 90 Chevy Beretta.
The dial-ins 849 and 822 respectively. Here they come.
Larry Ray out of shape in the left lane. Does Balog have enough to run him down?
No, sir. Larry Ray, 861 on an 849 for an easy victory.
And now a battle of the champions in a bracket called Top ET. Our modified winner, Anthony Bartozzi, against top dragster champion, Danny Bastianelli.
Well, the Top ET is actually for the local ET bracket racers of northern New York, but they allow the touring semi-professional IHRA regulars to enter, and you might know they come out on top of it. Winning this class was Danny Bastianelli. He turned a 757 on that 52 dial.
This has got to be easily an IHRA first here. How many rounds did you go today?
Was that an 8-round race or 7?
Probably 7 and 5.
I won 12 rounds today.
And you went 11 and 1.
11 and 1.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm on the bottom. I tried to tell him to give me a little break because he got all the electronics. I know he ain't got but one eye, but I mean.
Yeah, that's the kind of fun we have in sportsman racing. A look at the points, Ted.
Well, in top dragster, Joe Nelson's on top. Anthony Bertozzi did well today in second place. Ted May takes the lead in top sportsman. Dickie Bryson in second. And Larry Ray moves up into third place.
It's going to be a great summer of sportsman racing, and we hope you'll be with us right down to the final event of the season. Our ESPN coverage has been brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. I'm Bob Barsha for Ted Jones and Brett Kettner. Thanks for being with us. So long, everyone.